All right. So yesterday we had a podcast with Nikita. Nikita on the Russian website DTF. I hope I'm citing this all right. If I'm not, I apologize. It's all in Russian, so I can't translate it myself. I'm depending on guys on Reddit. I'll put the links to their two posts down below. Two different guys, little bit of different takes. I went through both posts. I read what they had to see what they had to say about this necessarily, and get their takes and use them as the source for a lot of this information. So keep that in mind. It's not a direct source. Some of this can be wrong. Some of it could be reported wrong. I'm just trying to give it to you guys that don't have time to go through and read and watch this stuff. Also, keep in mind that when Nikita is talking about this stuff, he's talking about future events. None of this is set in stone. It's what he wants. It's what he has for a vision. It can all change, and it all does change. We've seen it happen over and over again. So don't take this as locked in stone. So for those of you that like the TLDR version, we'll hit up some quick points here. Lighthouse is going to be huge, half the size of Shoreline, 4 scav bosses, new trader, and I take it as it's going to be linear like the old customs. You know, it's not going to be a big square map. It's going to be like a skinny, long map because Nikita says you'll cross the whole thing. Streets is next year. It's going to be huge. Raids should be an hour to 2 hours. You may spawn in from anytime during the raid, kind of like a scav does. Loot has not been decreased. It's just been spread out. The same amount of loot is on each map. It's just spread out in other places that are logical. Medical spawn in medical stuff. Tech spawn in tech stuff. So on and so forth. And then the Scar 12, along with the revolver shotgun, will be coming 12-12, but so will a couple other guns if that revolver system works out and isn't bugged anymore. Now I'm going to get into some more detailed stuff. That's the big points for those of you that's all you wanted. If you're going to hang around, I appreciate it. If not, thanks for watching up to this point. So Lighthouse, again, that's what the thumbnail is. That's what he sucked in here. They want it this year. That worries me that he says they want it this year. That means that it might not happen, which means 12-12 might not happen this year because supposedly that's when Lighthouse is coming. Again, that could be subject to change. My take on this is hope for the best, but plan for the worst. So hope for Lighthouse this year, but plan on it till not after Christmas. Like you said, it's going to be half the size of Shoreline roughly, a lot of terrain, and players are going to have to travel most of the map, which him saying that tells me that it's going to be like old customs where there wasn't a lot of, like if you're looking at the map, you have a lot of up and down movement. Right now with the way customs is, it's spread out a little bit more because of the expansions, but that tells me Lighthouse is going to be a long linear map. There's going to be a new trader on there. But for now, Nikita said he's going to sell stuff, but doesn't want to get into it too much. But his main point is going to be for storyline, not so much for, go into him to buy stuff. That's not going to be his main purpose. And then he mentioned that there's going to be 4 scav bosses. I don't know how this is going to work out. So does this mean that the other scav bosses are going to show up there? Is it going to be 4 brand new scav bosses? I don't know. But he did say 4 scav bosses. I'm going to keep beating on this dead horse about the loot because you still see people talking about it. The loot is still the same on every map, at least according to Nikita. If you think he's lying, that's your thing. I don't. And through my experience, I am getting the same amount of loot out of my raids as I was before. It is in a little bit different places, but I loot a lot different than other folks do. I move slowly through the map. I check all sorts of places for loot, but I've been getting out of customs with anywhere from 1.1 to 1.3 million rubles in loot each raid. They're the ones that I survive anyways. Sometimes I'm giving that loot to somebody else, but that's Tarkov, right? Nikita did drop a hint in the podcast. He talked about checking the truck near the swamp on Shoreline and the airplane on Woods. So I kind of hope he's just trolling with this. It would be funny as hell if people are running around there and he put like a dead body with a landmine or something. I don't know. Go check it out if you want to. I'm not going to because I feel like there's going to be people all over it now. I do hope he's trolling, but this means that maybe they didn't just change where loot spawns like on current spawn points, but they actually added new spawn locations. I'm going to be spending time digging around trying to find places that loot spawns that I've never seen before. They asked him why they added the Scav Rep, and he said Nikita said it's because he didn't like how scavs would roll in, kill another scav, take their loot, and leave. He wanted the interactions to be more realistic, and because of this, we're going to see things coming like a bounty hunter who's going to hunt PMCs that kill scavs and scav players, which is crazy because you're not going to be able to kill scavs as a PMC without any kind of repercussions going forward. So that's interesting. And then also the UN, once they add that faction to the game, Untar scavs, essentially, if you will, NPCs, those guys will be hunting you as well if you hunt down scavs, apparently. Stashes slash caches. Everybody calls them stashes. They're called caches. I call them caches. Not a big deal. Nonetheless, these will become randomized, it sounds like, which is kind of cool. Kind of sucks, kind of cool, because even the ones on woods, I don't know where they're all at. I got customs down pretty pat, but if they start randomizing and they move them, hopefully it's not all of them. Hopefully it's only some of them. I don't know. But that's potentially coming in the future, is randomizing caches. Along with this, there will be airdrops. They've mentioned this in the past. The idea is still there. They're still going to go forward with it. They like it. When it gets implemented, I don't know. And how it gets implemented, who knows. The SCAR will be coming with 1212, 100%. Under barrel grenade launchers, they will not be, and there's no date on those yet. Along with 1212 will be the revolver shotgun. And if they've got all the bugs fixed and it works fine, they're going to be able to add the Rhino and the RSH-12, which, for those of you that don't know, that is the Ash-12's little brother. It's a revolver that shoots the same round, which... no thanks, not in real life, but in the game, that sounds like amazing. I can't wait to get my hands on that thing. Couple more updates with the health system. It's still subject to change. They're working through some bugs that with the last change they made as far as blacked out limbs and things. But they talked about how they like the bleed system now, but there might be potential changes in the future. They have audio recorded for, like, when you're serving, you're using a Serve 12, you grunt and you make pain sounds and stuff like that if you're not on painkillers. They've already got those. They just haven't instituted them yet. They think they're going to, which is good. I think that's a cool add, interesting, in-depth kind of thing when you're, stapling your arm back on or closing your stomach up or whatever you're doing. And then they reconfirmed Arena. Arena's coming. He doesn't want to talk about it anymore. You'll see it when they add it. It's going to be down the road, though. I don't think it's anytime soon. Along with that, they discussed that'll be one of 3 ways you're playing Tarkov upon release. You'll have Arena, which is like a PvP mode. You'll have the standard account kind of deal. My standard account's probably the wrong way to describe it. Just your normal playthrough. Persistent. It doesn't wipe. It always stays the same through the whole game. And then you'll have a seasonal account, one that wipes seasons. They've brought up things like Path of Exile or Rust, or kind of how those reset on a cycle. So we'll see what that does. Nikita acknowledged the duffel bag bug on Interchange, where all the duffel bags are open, and you got to close them and open them again. You can't tell if they've been accessed. He says it's either been fixed or it will be fixed soon. What that means, I don't know how maybe it's fixed and it just hasn't been pushed out yet. But it sounds like it's being addressed. They asked about, being able to play Tarkov on consoles. He said they've had a lot of people reach out to them. They're not working on it right now. It'll be something they'll address in the future, but they like the idea. And the game will be on Steam EGS eventually after release. It doesn't really matter for me, I don't think, but we'll see what that does for the game. Streets will be next year. That's confirmed as far as what he said. I don't think anybody's surprised by that. There's still a lot of work to be done, but just kind of another reinforcement to that. Players will be spawning throughout the raid, kind of like scavs. You don't all spawn at the end, at the start, and then you run through. There might be players that spawn partway through how the raid goes. He wants the raids to be really long, potentially an hour to 2 hours, which is fine for me. I don't know how other people are going to feel about that. I suspect some folks are not going to be happy. We'll just have to wait and see how that mechanic works. And he said Streets is going to be the first big step towards open world, if everything works out as planned. Now, again, all of this is subject to change. This is in the development process. None of this is in stone. That's just kind of what they're thinking right now with Streets. I talked about some interesting analytics as far as the player base is concerned. So you have about 30, I'm going to look at my numbers here. You have 37% players in the United States, USA, which I think he means North America, 30% in Europe, 14 to 17% in Russia, 14% Asia, 4% Oceania, and 1% ASEAN. The largest group of the player base is 28 to 34 years old. How they glean that, I'm not sure. I think you do have to put your birthday in, but nonetheless, kind of cool stat to just so you know who you're playing with out there. I fit outside of that 34-year age range, unfortunately, but that is how it is. Now, of course, they talked about anti-cheat. Nikita said they don't like invasive anti-cheats like Valorant's because it affects performance and it's always scanning your computer. They are working on systems inside Battlestate, inside Tarkov, in themselves that will gather information and send that to BattleEye to facilitate banning cheaters faster, I suppose. We'll see. And to wrap this up, I want to kind of talk. Nikita talked a lot about new players, hardcore versus casual, and some of this other stuff. And he said there's a lot of changes that they have and they're ready to implement. and things they want to do, but they're not doing it because the players cry about it so much. And it's understandable. They can't even make changes that are asked for without people freaking out. So it's going to be processed. They're going to do things like weapon malfunctions and get to this point to where things are much more difficult. And the goal is to try to attract players that don't normally play hardcore games into a hardcore game. So you give them things to make the start of it easier, like the flea market and some of the other mechanics, and then you push more hardcore stuff onto them so that you introduce them to the hardcore world. I guess that's kind of what he was getting at. So keep that in mind with a lot of this stuff when you guys are not liking a current mechanic in the game. There is a method to the madness. So I guess I'll trust in Nikita, and we move forward. So with that, we'll wrap it up. Because the news section was so long this time, I'm not going to do an economy or a barter update. Nothing really changed from yesterday. So if you're curious about that, just go check that video out from yesterday. Everything still holds the same for the most part, and we'll pick up with the economy stuff tomorrow, assuming there isn't a whole bunch more news again. As always, quick shout out to the Patreons. Those guys are a huge support for what they do and how they support the content. And so are all of you that watch the videos, like, subscribe, comment, all of that jazz. Appreciate it. We'll see you on the next video.